Mobile games have played an important role in everyone's lives. And of course, who doesn't need entertainment and fun? These days, gaming is not confined to having fun and pleasing millions of users. Rather, these games connect people socially, enhance cognitive skills, and create profit making business opportunities. That's why they have become a fundamental part of a modern lifestyle and even hold great commercial and cultural significance. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Analytics Insight podcast, where we talk about the ever evolving tech space. And I'm your host, Priya Dialani. Now, mobile gaming is not just fun, but big business worth millions of dollars and is in many ways the cornerstones of the metaverse. Gaming companies like Fortnite developer Epic Games have already started creating virtual worlds of their own to compete with the ones developed by Facebook owner Meta. However, that doesn't explain what mobile gaming marketing is or what the opportunities are. Well, don't worry, we have got you covered. So let's welcome Simon Dussart, CEO of Adjust. Hi, Simon, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing well. Thanks for welcoming me.
Great, it's a pleasure to have you with us on a podcast. And I think we are going to talk about something very fun. Probably mobile gaming is just what we always allocate that way. So, I mean, let's start with telling our listeners what exactly Adjust is. What are some specific solutions the company focuses on, or any particular type of specialization that you guys deal into?
Yeah, for sure. Just to give a bit of context, so Just is 12 years old now, and I've been at Just for 10 years. What we do is simply we are called like a measurement partner. So we help marketers, app developers to measure, optimize, and scale the growth of the app growth across all of their platforms from mobile, web, CTV, console, PC, etc. We really started around mobile, but then it expanded as the needs of the market has expanded as well. And overall, the goal, right, if you boil down what Adjust does, it's simply there to allow app developers to get better return on their ad spend.
Okay, quite interesting, and thank you for sharing that with us. Um, since we spoke about the company, and we would also like to know about yourself. I think you are the company's first employee, if I'm not wrong. So, if you could tell us more about your journey till date, your role and contribution towards the company.
Yeah, so I joined in like April 2014. So I think that was when the company was going to turn 2 years old. We were like very small at the time, right? It was a small company based in Berlin. That's also when the mobile ecosystem and when MMP started to be like a thing, because before it was mostly ad networks and app developers. And so when I joined, it was really the beginning of the ecosystem, I would say, as it is now. And I think what's really exciting is the fact that there was such a huge need for the solutions that we provided, and we really like experienced exponential growth, and we could also help define the ecosystem in a way, and that really was that's what attracted me. And so as the company grew, as the ecosystem matured, as everything kind of fell into place, I also grew with Adjust, right? So like I started as an integration engineer, meaning basically allowing ad networks to integrate with our partners and troubleshooting issues. And before CEO, I was the chief customer officer because I just did my entire life with customer support and customer services, which touches both the service part and the product part. And so that's kind of how I got to where I am. Where now, when looking back 10 years, we go from an ecosystem that was very nascent into something that, as you said, has multiple multi-billion dollar companies and is a much more mature and robust ecosystem now that has touched a lot of people's lives.
Well, yes, I think it's definitely a very much a robust ecosystem when we're talking about the mobile gaming landscape. But moving ahead, I want to touch upon one of the critical aspects that are related to mobile gaming or mobile gaming marketing. So I want to talk about data privacy. I think
Mhm.
the motivation for account hacking isn't very hard to comprehend. Now, there are a lot of ways for a cyber criminal to profit from simply stealing a player's login credentials. For example, even a simple Google search can that includes a popular game's title plus cheats or hacks will give them a number of results. Now, some of these are also heavily search optimized sites which are designed to get players to click on ads, fill out surveys, or even download a possibly malicious file. So I
Mhm.
think And when we're talking about online gaming, I think online gaming accounts contain an invariable amount of personal information. So this information is ultimately more valuable than an in-game item, I believe, because it could either be sold in a cyber criminal underground market, or it can be further used to invade the victim's privacy by accessing their email and other online accounts. So that way, the possibilities are endless as to how they can make use of data and for their own benefit. So, can you highlight the importance of data privacy in mobile gaming marketing?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing to talk about when we discuss privacy is that it's a good thing. Like as you mentioned, right, there are many risks to having a lack or lapses in data security and data privacy. So data privacy overall is a good thing. We are a German company, or we started as a German company before being global, based in Germany, which has always had very strong privacy laws. And so that's why, like, it makes sense when we talk to clients as well. We also say, like, you can't really skirt privacy regulations because first off, it's bad for users and it's also bad for your business. Overall, over time, especially since the EU introduced GDPR, right, there are very clear steps that almost every business took, and we see them being either taken willfully or being enforced by other regulations. I think the first one is around consent management, right? So we see now it started in the web with the cookies as well, but now it's in mobile where a lot of companies, gaming as well, obviously, have a consent management flow where a user is told to whether consent or not to sharing their data with either the app developer or with third parties that the app developer is leveraging. And I think what we saw, right, is that sure, it might be an extra step to starting to enjoy the game, but it actually does build trust between a game or an app developer and their users, which is something that is much better for long-term retention as well and long-term LTV. The second is around data minimization, I would call it, and potentially anonymization as well. But there was, I would say, this trend of trying to collect as much data as possible, not in necessarily nefarious manners, right? Like most of the gaming companies are gaming companies. They're there to improve their product, which is a game. Same thing for third-party solutions. But when you track or when you measure, collect too much data, it just becomes more noise, and it can feel more intrusive than is actually necessary. So this trend towards data minimization is also something that is good for the ecosystem because transparently you can always tell your users, hey, yeah, I'm collecting these data points, not to do anything shady, but simply to improve your experience, be it with, if I'm an ad monetized game, to serve you better ads that fit with what you like more, or to improve the gameplay, because now I know that level 5 is actually failing here and there, and because of the data that I collect internally, I can actually improve that experience. And so long as you can justify why some of the data points are collected, and it is legitimately in order to improve the user experience, this is good. If you start collecting more, first off, it's noise, and second, it can feel strange as to why you would need those data points. And I think overall, it's this idea, like content management and data minimization, it fits into the overarching theme of transparency, right? Like you need to build that trust relationship between your company or your game and your users. So it's transparency and then user control. So being able to say like, hey, this is what the privacy policies are. This is what control our users have around what data is being collected, and this opt-out fashion, right? That you can decide like, hey, I'm okay with sharing here, but not there, so that they can manage what kind of data they would want to share, and they understand why it's all necessary. Of course, I would say like, I mean, it's a somewhat of a tangent, but obviously back to your point about like more than privacy, more on like piracy. It's about storing your data in secure locations. But that goes without saying, right? Like obviously encrypting the data and make sure that everything is stored properly and is very hard to hack is a necessity for any company that decides to collect user data to use them to improve their products.
Well, yes, I think you very well highlighted some important aspects of data privacy, that it's so important to collect data and even store data securely. And eventually it helps in, building out trust among users, and which is one of the essential factors for long-term retention of users. So I think that was very well explained. Um, Now, moving ahead, I think when we're talking about the gaming world, I think it has witnessed a monumental shift with the rise of mobile gaming, specifically. Now, mobile devices have become ubiquitous, providing users convenient access to a vast array of games. But what makes these mobile games even more captivating and immersive? I think the answer lies in integration of AI technologies. So it's not a secret that AI has been transforming an array of industries. So I think gaming industry is also included in it, and it empowers developers to create more intelligent, dynamic, personalized, and even engaging experience for the mobile gamers. So I want to understand from you, how do you use technologies like artificial intelligence or related technologies like machine learning to enhance the mobile marketing for gaming?
Yeah, I think there are lots of ways to leverage AI or machine learning, because like what AI and machine learning are very good at is to analyze a ton of data and be able to get insights out of it, right? Or to get a concrete output based on this data analysis. At Adjust, the way we use it is simply it's three ways actually. It's around predictions and recommendations. So, for example, back in May, if I'm not wrong, time flies very fast. In May, we shipped Insight. It's a new product, part of our recommend pillar. But we shipped Insight, which is an incrementality analysis, meaning, I don't know if for whoever is not familiar with incrementality, basically, let's say you run a new campaign. So you start a new campaign with a new channel, you spend $10,000 on this, and you get 10,000 installs. It doesn't have to be installs, but for the sake of the example, it's going to be easier. 10,000 installs, you're going to think, hey, okay, my cost per install is $1. I spent $10,000, I got 10,000 installs. And that's what measurement has been so far, right? Like just the one-to-one mapping. What incrementality does is actually be able to explain if some of these installs would have come anyway if you hadn't spent that money, or if it provided a lift. So basically, did that campaign when you spent 10K dollars also increased other channels such as organics, or did it cannibalize away from organics? So maybe so with Insight and with incrementality, what you can do is simply say, hey, I launched this campaign, I spent 10K, I got 10,000 installs, but then we can also tell you, actually, you also got 5,000 installs in organic on top of the 10,000. So you spent 10K, but you didn't get 10K installs in 10,000 installs back, you got 15,000 installs back. So your cost per install is much lower. Or vice versa. We can say, well, actually, yes, you spent $10,000, you got 10,000 installs attributed to this campaign. But you know what? If you hadn't spent that money, 5,000 of these would have come organically anyway. So your cost per install is actually twice as high as what you thought. And that is simply possible because of machine learning and AI, because we're able to analyze the trends in the market and the trends across like apps and say like, hey, you know what? This campaign actually worked much better than what is just straightly attributed to it, or actually cannibalized a bunch of your organics. That's the first thing we did. And the second is media mix modeling. So media mix modeling is even easier to understand. Basically, we can analyze your data across the past. Let's say we look at the past year of data, spend, impression, clicks, installs, purchases, etc. And then you can tell us a time frame in the future. So let's say you want to say from September 1st to December 1st, for example, and you want to spend $1 million. We can tell you how to spend that money in a way that will give you more installs or higher ROAS or higher revenue than what you would have gotten if you had spent it the way you used to spend it. So we basically give you the optimized spend based on our recommendations. And that fits as well with like predictive LTV, so prediction of the lifetime value of a user. This is what, on our side, what I really see machine learning as and AI as very important for the future of marketing, because not only does it work on aggregated data, so it fits in the privacy conversation as well, because we don't need to like get intrusive data from the users for this to work, but it also can predict how to best spend your money and give you the true return on ad spend and the true return on investment of your campaigns. And I think, to me, like there have been so many conversations around, hey, machine learning is magic and AI is magic, which is obviously not true, right? It's part of the hype around a new technology. But this is a technology that is very powerful, because when you feed it the right amount of data and you know exactly what use case to use it for, it can actually give you tremendous returns, as we saw with Insight for incrementality and media mix modeling on our side. It really does help clients get a lot more bang for their buck. When it comes to games themselves, I think what AI is used for, sure, for creative analysis, right? So creative creation as well, just create a lot more than before, because you can just generate it at will, and also to troubleshoot. So being able to understand and analyze player behavior as to where your game might not be optimized as well as it should be, to get more retention and more player enjoyment. I don't know if that makes sense to you, if you have like,
Right.
if I clarify anything.
No, I think it definitely makes sense. Though of course, I don't belong from a very technical background, but I'm sure our listeners would definitely benefit from a detailed technical knowledge that you have helped us understand how you've been using AI and ML, and of course, giving example of the Insight product was very much helpful for us. So I think it's clear that the with technologies like AI and machine learning, I think the mobile industry is at an evolving pace. And I think in our day-to-day lives as well, I believe that gaming is inescapable. Sorry for the fumble. But I think, you're probably, your aunt is crushing candy on the subway ride to work, or while your cousin is fighting tooth and nail to earn their very first battle royal on Fortnite. So, and I just came across this study which shows that the mobile gaming app revenue is expected to grow with a CGR of 7.77%, and which will result in a market volume of US dollars 220 billion by 2027. So I think the numbers also prove it too, that it's growing at a rapid scale. But I think behind all the immersive experiences that we are enjoying while playing games on our mobiles, I think something that is very much empowering, that is the gaming analytics. I think human creativity paired with exceptional data produces incredible games. But what exactly and how exactly data does that? I think it would be great if you can help us answer that how advanced analytics is, changing the mobile gaming industry and also playing an important role in the marketing of these games.
Yeah, I mean, I think the right now, I mean, so gaming has been around forever, as you mentioned, and it's pretty much everybody games on their phones now. Um, but also, we've seen a lot of changes around both gaming monetization, and in gaming monetization, but also how they leverage data. And I think the key for success for mobile games is to actually understand what works and what doesn't, so that you get the best return on ad spend. Because a lot of the games, like, they work through spending and getting like purchases or enough ad views to like be able to sustain that growth, right? So really the key of analytics for gaming and the key of like analyzing all the data is really understanding your user acquisition campaigns, really understanding the true ROAS per campaign. And that means understanding not only just, hey, I spent my $10,000 and I got my 10,000 installs, but also deep down, what is the funnel, right? So does it go from, have there been many assists, for example, multi-touch, right? Did a user, or are my users coming from the same select channels, and is it always the same funnel? Does it also, is there a drop off before purchase? So for example, we have a lot of clients who have several events, right? So the user would click on a view an ad, click on an ad, install the app, and then they would just have, let's say, a registration, level one, level two, level five purchase, for example. Understanding that funnel and being able to know where the drop off happens and what is the key action in an event in your app that will push a user towards purchase allows you to optimize towards that revenue much, much quicker. So it's about not only understanding your marketing spend, but also understanding the gameplay of your game and understanding where the users would drop off. If you see that level two is usually where 50% of users just stop playing, that means you need to fix this before you can try and increase your spend on all of your channels, because otherwise you just, it's leaky buckets, right? You spend a lot of money, you acquire these users, but then they drop off before your purchases are hit. It's not going to work. And so there's both that aspect of managing your game, but also understanding the difference between short-term measurement to an extent and longer term measurement. So short term measurement would be, as I said, hey, okay, I spent my money, I spent my 10K on these campaigns, I got my 10,000 installs, volume is fine. I got my volume. Post install metrics matter less because I'm sure if I got my 10,000 installs, it's going to be fine. We've seen a huge change, especially in India, where it used to go from a couple of years ago when I was there, and then when I came back a month ago, 2 months ago, it used to be a volume play. So let's just get as many users as possible because the CPI was very cheap. But a lot of these companies, especially in gaming, then told me that they had to switch to more of a quality play. So instead of trying to get as many users as possible, you would just focus on the cost per event. So say like, hey, I don't care how many installs I have. I just want to pay only whatever, $10 per registration, or I want my ROAS on day 7 to be 40%. And that shift in mentality going from volume to, or from quantity to quality, is very important for the sustainability of a gaming company. And I think on our side, what we're trying to help there is, of course, provide the analytics data to say like, yeah, you have your spend, you have your installs, but also, like I mentioned before with MMM and Insight, help understand the true cost and the true returns of your campaigns. So being able to say like, hey, there's been cannibalization. When you do a volume play across many networks, where you don't really care about conversion rates, you don't really care about user quality, you will see heavy cannibalization. And because there's only a specific pool of users that you can fight over. And so that's why we developed all these solutions, so that we can show clients like, hey, look, you really want to stop doing this mass volume play, for example, and move towards a better quantity or a better quality play, because half of the users in your mass volume play would have come organically anyway. So you just spent your money on nothing. You just trim your margins, which, right now it's very important in the current economy to be a good, profitable business. So you trim your margins for no reason. And that's what we're trying to empower, not just showing the data as it is, but also explain and show what the optimized version of their spend and then of their game could look like, so that profits are higher and revenue are higher for these games.
Great. Yes, I think it's so important. I mean, you very well highlighted the importance of data analytics, because I think just having numbers is not something important, but how you can use those numbers, another part of the ball game, I feel. So, I think it helps in delivering more personalized engagement to each user, depending on where across he's at the touch point. So it's very important to use data analytics. I think earlier you mentioned, when I asked you about data privacy, you mentioned about GDPR, and I think with the introduction of GDPR, I think it has been a significant turning point for many app developers. But many thought that it's also a part of challenges that they might face in terms of complying with GDPR regulations. But I guess the resurgence of the privacy conversation propelled by lack of real implementation of legal requirements, and there are new stringent laws and regulations coming up from the regulators. I think all of this has brought back the topic into spotlight, and has been making it more crucial than ever. So I think despite these challenges, early adopters of privacy adaptations are beginning to witness new and promising opportunities emerging from these changes. So I want to understand from you what are certain steps that or what are certain things that you consider before you're complying with these global data protection regulations that adjust.
I mean, on our side, we've always had to comply with the most stringent privacy laws because Germany had the most stringent privacy laws before GDPR came out, which was basically a copy of the German privacy laws at the European level. So that was built from the beginning, right? Like on our side, navigating privacy changes and regulations or privacy, regulation changes is part of the business, like day-to-day course of business, to be honest, because we work with data. And like, as I mentioned before, we work with data from our clients. We're not a controller of the data. We're a processor under GDPR. So we analyze the data, we measure the data on our client's behalf. And so that means to be able to get that trust, right? Because I mentioned the trust between a company and its users, but there's also a trust between a provider like ours, like us, and our clients. We need to make sure that we comply with the most stringent privacy laws. Like what that means is not only can we help client understand what the laws, how the laws could affect their business. Obviously, it's up to like their own interpretation in the end, but we can help them understand and give like examples as to how other companies are complying with it. But also on our side, it's providing all of the tools, all of the APIs, so that they can decide on how to best communicate that to their clients. So when to initialize, for example, the app, when to ask for consent, what to do in case the user has consented, not consented, and we need to be able to provide all this. What data should be shared and not be shared based on user consent. We have been providing all of these different mechanisms so that on our side, a client who decides that they don't want to share data XYZ anyway, whether it be to us or to other partners, they can set that up on to adjust and say like this data is just never going to get sent out of the device. Because ultimately, back to the transparency and user control, that's what matters most to all of these businesses and to all users, right? They have to be able to understand that they can control what data is being passed. So that's the first thing, right? Both complying internally, obviously, because this is what we do as a business. Second is to provide all of these options to our clients so that they can comply as well according to their own recommendations. And third, it's not really around what we did in the past, but it's also the way we operate internally, is that when we build new products, we build them with privacy in mind because more and more laws are being rolled out in many countries around privacy. And that's not going to change because ultimately privacy is a good thing. And so we have to build these products with the concept that privacy is here to stay and it's just going to get more stringent. So we have to use data that is aggregated, that is anonymized, that is, let's say, future proof, and yet be able to provide all that value to our clients. That's how we built the machine learning solutions, Insight and MMM. We built it based on data that is aggregated, is anonymized, is not user-based. And I think that's a core tenet to how we operate as a business because it allows clients to first be sure that we can accompany them through these changes, but also that our solutions won't require a major rewrite or will have to be discontinued in the future because privacy laws have changed.
Well, yes, I think that definitely makes sense. And in terms of regulations and compliance, it's very important that we comply with these regulations and ensure that we are keeping, we are ensuring data privacy and security of all our users as well. And I think we spoke about, artificial intelligence and how you've been using artificial intelligence. But I think the next wave that we are right now witnessing is the potential of generative AI, and it of course has a capability to change the crafting of game assets, and there's a lot of buzz around it, and it's very difficult to overlook that. But I've come across a lot of people who have said that the journey towards implementing this technology in practice comes with its own set of obstacles. For example, if you talk about implementing AI in the gaming industry or mobile industry, I think it's the intellectual property. I think that's one of the primary concerns in the usage of AI in the game development. So I want to understand from you what are some of the challenges that probably you have come across in terms of integrating AI and ML for the mobile gaming marketing landscape.
I'd adjust the way we integrated it and the challenges that we found in integrating the MI solutions, the ML solution, you mean?
Yes, yes.
I mean, we started toying around with machine learning, I would say about 3 years ago, 2.5, 3 years ago, because we realized like, hey, okay, we actually know the trends in the market. We know we also get questions from clients, right? Like our clients, app developers come to us and say, hey, what could I do better? Because they would come to me and say, you have visibility around the market. Do you know where I could spend my money? Which countries am I missing? Which networks am I not leveraging properly? Can you intro me to like companies XYZ because maybe they can help me expand my business? So they would come to us for these recommendations because we have that knowledge. And what that kind of got us thinking, because we're like, well, what is very good at recommending options to clients is machine learning. That's kind of what we do manually now, of telling app developers like, hey, you guys should do this and that because you're missing out there. It's what we could automate. We could do it at scale across all of our clients to help them just be better businesses. And and so we started toying around with AI and ML like 2.5, 3 years ago. And to be honest, at the time, we weren't really sure what the output would be like, but we knew we kind of wanted to build this kind of recommendation aspect of it. And the main thing is that it took us until January of last year, I would say. So about a year and a half of tweakings to get anything that was remotely accurate. Because before, when we tried to predict anything or to give incrementality or even MMM predictions, it was about 60% accurate, which, if something is 60% accurate, it's pretty much not accurate at this point, especially when you play around with like, when you want to recommend advertisers what to do with their money. I wasn't feeling comfortable with giving them recommendations that just were only 60% accurate. And that was the first hurdle. For a while, we were like, hey, look, if we cannot break this like 60% threshold, what's the point? Maybe there's nothing there. Maybe it doesn't make sense. The technology is not there, or we're not good enough to leverage it, whatever. But we don't want to mislead anybody. And so we tweaked with the models. I think the technology got better as well over time. And I think in January, that's when we started understanding that, hey, you know what? We can actually like have a model now. We are able to build a model now. Leveraging control groups basically is what helped us a lot. That is very accurate. Right now, we're at 95% accuracy on average. And we give that transparently as well in the dashboard when the accuracy goes up or down, right? Like we show the accuracy of the model because, again, if we recommend something, I want to be fully transparent about that recommendation and its accuracy. And so first it was the accuracy. We needed to get accuracy to like a level where we were comfortable enough. So that means 90, 95%. And that took a long time. Then the problem is when we had accuracy done and we were good enough there, it would still take weeks to get the data, like to get the output. So we could do incrementality analysis or media mix modeling analysis for clients who wanted to like be design partners with us. But they would give us data. It would take us, let's say, 3 weeks to 4 weeks to get the results out, which is okay, actually. That's kind of the standard in the industry when you use like your data science team or an agency, etc., of data scientists to analyze data. It usually takes 3 to 4 weeks to get the output because you need to tweak the models to fit exactly what these clients, what the client's business basically, and the client's use cases. And so it makes sense so that you can hit that high accuracy. But the problem is that if a client has to wait 4 weeks to get data, given that our space moves very quickly, it's not super relevant because you want to be able to stop the campaign that's not working right now, or you want to be able to invest more in that campaign that's working really well right now as well. You don't want to lose that time. So before it was product ready, we're like, okay, now we have accuracy ready, but we need speed. We just need to be quick. And so that's what we focused, I would say, the last year on, it was making all of the models much quicker. Now we managed to do it, I would say, like in March or April this year, and that's why we shipped the product in April or May. Because now, if you want to analyze a campaign on Just with Insight, it takes about 10 minutes. So you can create your test, and 10 minutes later, you have the results in your dashboard. When I show it to clients, I do it live because it's kind of what we want, right? We want something that is simple, that is accurate, and that is very fast. Because there's so many options you can do with machine learning. A lot of it can just be noise that is not really actionable. So that's why the simplicity came in. And then accuracy is obvious. And then speed is what really makes the difference, because then clients are able to make the changes to their campaigns as quickly as possible, and are able to just get more returns for their spend, basically. But it was a journey. Like, it was a 3-year journey, basically, on our side, to go from let's try this thing to, hey, actually, this is something that works at scale, is simple, is efficient, is accurate, and is fast.
Right. I think if it takes long hours to cut down to short 10 minutes, I think that's definitely an achievement. And of course, everybody needs more accurate and more faster model development and prediction. And that's probably an essential requirement, or not just the gaming industry, but I think everywhere across different industries. So having said that, Simon, one last question. If you could quickly tell us some of the future trends that you think might take place in the mobile gaming marketing.
Yeah, so what we're seeing in the future trends, we talked about generative AI that allows games to be much more efficient and to scale much quicker, both in analyzing their games and in generating content for their games. And I think that's clearly the trend that we see when I talk to all the clients. India specifically is also mirroring this trend, where we see that more and more developers are leveraging machine learning and AI to create personalized user experiences, and to also give predictive analytics and all of this, because it makes sense. That's the first thing. The second would be gaming on CTV, so on connected TV, right? What we see is that in the recent years, gaming was the second largest category on Amazon Fire TV and Apple TV, where you had double-digit growth. I think it was about 17% on Amazon and 22% on Apple TV, and that was 17% and 22% of apps that were advertising were gaming apps. So that was the second largest category. And to be honest, other categories like sports or music, etc., they didn't even come close to gaming's share of CTV. And then in the US, CTV is the fastest growing channel. It's projected, I think, to hit 30 billion this year in ad revenue. So there's clearly an angle with CTV there, because it's a new channel that more and more gaming companies are leveraging or trying to leverage. The third piece is what I mentioned earlier around the monetization strategy. It used to be that it was very clear cut, where you had hyper casuals that was ad driven, and then you had casual or mid-core that was mostly IAP driven. We're seeing more and more what we would call hybrid casual in games. So it's a new genre. And what they're doing is they have in-app monetization on top of ads, and that has dramatically increased their revenue across a range of KPIs, right? It helps diversify revenue streams, and also it helps back to this transparency and trust with clients or with users. It helps tailor the experience that the user wants. Do they want to just have ads and enjoy the game for free? Would they rather pay a couple of dollars to get a more premium experience in that case? And that does improve lifetime value. So the hybrid model is honestly up and coming. More and more gaming developers are moving towards it. And the last piece, I think, I mentioned CTV, but there's also what I would call multi-platform gaming. Since last year, I think about July, August last year, there's been a huge push in the gaming market to have PC and console attribution and measurement, which we also released based on our clients' feedback, where more and more clients or more and more gaming developers want to explore consoles and PC on top of mobile. I think there was a report last year where we see that revenue from games, of console games, right, grew like 7.4%, which is not insignificant because it's a very old market as well, right? But we see that more and more developers are pushing towards their console games on top of the mobile experience. Before it used to be console first, and then they would do a mobile spin-off, and now we see that the reverse is also true. And so that's why, like on our side, when we listen to that feedback, we also built a PC console measurement solution because what we realized is that it's kind of similar to how e-commerce would act with they would be on web first and then they would move to mobile, and so they would try to understand the user journey across all of their different platforms, web, mobile, etc. Gaming is moving to that direction with PC console and mobile, so they would like to understand what their users are doing on PC, on console, and on mobile as well. So to recap, like really, the four main trends is, of course, Gen AI is big one. CTV is still coming up, and more gaming companies are leveraging it as a channel. Monetization with in-app, with like hybrid monetization solutions with in-app and ads. And then the PC console gaming or cross-platform gaming for mobile, PC, and console are the four main trends that I noticed for the past year or so.
Great, and I think the gaming industry will continue to explore new frontiers in technology, storytelling, and improving the overall gaming experience year after year. So, and even AI-powered systems, like we discussed, will have the ability to process huge amounts of data and generate more complex algorithms. So, it's probably going to be more richer. The entire gaming experience will be more richer and more immersive. And I think what really the developers and the gaming companies need to focus is how they're going to market their games. And I think what they need is a successful and a professional company to ensure its successful integration. Well, thank you so much, Simon. It was a pleasure having you with us on a podcast. I think we spoke about some interesting and insightful angles about the gaming, mobile gaming specifically, and also the mobile gaming marketing and how it's going to revolutionize or change the way we are going to play games in the future.
Yeah, no, for sure. It was super good discussion to have. Thanks again for inviting me. Hope I'll be
Yes.
back.
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much. So this is for our listeners. Stay tuned for our upcoming podcasts, and you can view and listen all our previous podcasts on Spotify and other leading platforms. Thank you so much.